गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थेषु भिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदयादिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, chapter 8, verse 68. Story of Sri Dhruva Maharaj after he left his father's palace and went to the forest. So just when he came out of the palace, he met Narada. Narada is always looking for disciples. So he was just waiting. He came all the way running from Brahmaloka. That this boy wants to be a devotee, and he just initiated him. Here you are. So Narada, he is the guru of all kinds of people. He is guru of the devas, guru of asuras, guru of human beings, Gandharvas. So he helps everyone on the path of bhakti. That's why he is considered as Bhakti avatar, empowered to give bhakti. So somehow he understood that Dhruva is leaving the house and wants to worship the Lord, so he came to guide him. Bhagavatam, right from the beginning, speaks about Bhakti Yoga. And then it explains this process of Bhakti in different story form. So, if you remember in the very beginning, when Sukadeva Goswami was there, he said that Akamo Sarvakamo Moksha Kamo Bharati Tivrani Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param, that everyone has desires, no desires, wants liberation. Everybody should follow Bhakti Yoga. So here is an example of a person who is interested in some material gain and how he attains it by performing Bhakti. But the process is same. Everyone has to perform Bhakti Tivrena Bhakti Yoga. Tivra means forceful, intense, not lukewarm. Means full heart. So here the example of Dhruva Maharaj is shown, that how he was very fixed, very staunch. And Narada first tested him, and he is really qualified to be a disciple or not. So the whole process is given. And Bhakti is not dependent on any particular birth or qualification, except one has to have strong faith in this process. So otherwise Dhruva was not qualified for initiation. He has to still wait 3 more years to get initiated. But on the path of Bhakti there is no such restriction. It is Sarvatra Sarvada, applicable to all people at all times, all ages, all places. So that's what is being shown here. That even a young boy can perform bhakti, and although he has material desires, still he can perform bhakti. But the qualification is of the heart. That he was very much convinced that I can only gain my goal through worship of Krishna, not from anyone else. And therefore he did not want to go back, although Narada first tried to dissuade him to go back. So the process also shows that how one needs the guidance of a guru. Although Mother has already explained that you have to worship, but how the worship has to be done, that he learned from the teacher. His teacher, Sri Narada, who gave him the mantra of the process of meditation. So that is the role of Guru, to guide the disciple to achieve the ultimate purpose. So after Narada spoke to Dhruva, then he left and Dhruva began his meditation, which will be described later on. Then he went to see the father of Dhruva Maharaj, Uttanapad, who was very much sad because he performed or he overlooked the wrong done to Dhruva because of his attachment to his wife. So sometimes a person does a thing willingly, and sometimes the person is forced because of other person's desire. So it is not that Uttanapad did not like Dhruva, or it is not that he did not know that Dhruva is a very qualified person. And he also knew that Dhruva is actually the rightful heir of the throne, because he is actually born to the elder queen. Sumiti was elder and Suruchi was younger. So he was elder to Uttama, and therefore it was his right to sit on the throne, not to speak of sit in the lap of the father. But because father was very much under the control of the other wife, so he did not act properly and guard the right of Dhruva Maharaj. Although inside he knew that this is wrong. Sometimes people do wrong things because they like to do it, and sometimes they do it because they are helpless for whatever reason. So this was his situation, and therefore he is repenting now. If he had done it willingly, then he will not repent. But Suruchi was not repenting. But he is repenting. Why? Because he did not approve of it from inside his heart. So that's why when we read in the previous verses, he spoke to Narada, he was very much lamenting that how I am under the control of my wife and I did not stop my boy who is so young, and what will happen to him? He is going to the forest, he will be eaten up by the ferocious animals. So Narada, he consoles him now. He says, Narada Vacha, Bhava Shuchah Sutaniyam Deva Guptam Vishampate Tat Prabhavam Avidyaya Karmate Yadyasho Jagat. So he told the king that do not worry about your son, because he is protected by fate or by the Lord, Devagupta. So he says that there is no danger to him. And you do not know his prowess. his fame will spread all over the world very soon. Don't think that he is just a little boy, but he is a very powerful person. So this is what he informed him. Mama sarvatha evam shokam makuru, says, don't grieve at all for him. Tat prabhavam avigyaya vartmana ityartha. You are thinking like this because you don't know the greatness of Dhruva. Pravimte vyapsyati vartman samipya vartmanatvam. So he says that very soon his fame will spread throughout the world. Sudaskaram karma kritva lokapalairapi prabhu eshyati achirito rajan yaso vipalayam stava. Says that he will perform very difficult task, and after performing this he will come home. He will perform activities which even the great Lokpalas cannot perform, and then he will also spread your fame. So Vipulayam Stavu Yasorayam. So as we will read later on, what he did was not an ordinary thing, because he performed very severe austerities which are unheard of, and this made him famous, and of course Uttanapad's fame also increased because of him. So Maitreya Vacha, Maitreya said, Iti devarshina proktam vishrutya jagati patihi rajalakshmim manadritya putram eva vachintayant. Maitreya said that when the king was informed like this by sage Narada, then he lost interest in his kingdom and he only thought of his son. So now he became more attached to the son, because he could understand how great is Dhruva if Narada is speaking like this. And he was more meditative and thinking. So many times it happens that when an object or person is there with you, you don't understand the importance of that person. And you lose something, or you lose the association of some person, then you understand the importance of that person. So now he is also realizing this. And therefore, says that he became indifferent to all his opulent kingdom, Raja Lakshmi. So that's why in Bhakti there is also separation. In Krishna's pastimes, he creates separation to his devotees. Because when devotees are separated from the Lord, then they are continuously absorbed in his thoughts. When Lord is there, they may think of other things. So he says, Putram eva avchintayat. He was just thinking of his son. Tatra abhishikta prayatas tamuposya vibhavarim samahitaha pariyacharad adrishyadesena purusham. So now he describes what Dhruva did. So he went to the bank of Yamuna and he took bath there. So abhishikta prayatas. And he spent the night there fasting, and then following the instructions of Sri Narada with one pointed mind began the worship of the Lord. Samahita pariyachara drishya adesena purusha. Rishi adesena. So as the sage Narada has described, so he began worship. Madhuvane Dhruvaha kim akarod iti apekshayamaha tatreka. So So what did Dhruva do in Madhuvan? That is being described now. Abhishekta means Snata, he took bath in the river. And Traita means purified. Triratrante kapitha badarashmaha atmavrityan sarene masam ninne chayan harin. So in the first month, this is what he did. That after 3 nights, he was eating once. After 3 nights, means he will fast 3 days and then he will eat. And what he will eat? This bear, which grows a lot in this area.
Same one we have.
Yeah. And there is another fruit, kapitha. I don't see those trees here. I've seen them in childhood. It's called kath. So these were 2 fruits which were available here. So he will eat this fruit once in 3 days. Just a child. So now you try to imagine. And rest of the time, he will just worship the Lord. He will do puja, meditation, the mantra. That's all. So imagine a child, all the child does is eating. If normal people eat 3 times, child eats 6 times. And he was eating once in 3 days. And that also just some fruits. No bread, no butter, no milk, no solid food. Just some fruit. And then rest of the time he was only meditating. So it's beyond our concept that somebody can even do such a thing. And this is just the beginning. He began like that. So this is for the first month. So kapitha badar matra bhoji atmano vritter jivkaya anusara svikara. So he was eating only this fruit, kapitha and badar, this bear. And that also according to his own need. Not too much. Just little. Not for survival. Then what he did in the next month, hear that. Dutiyam cha tathamasam sashthe bhako dine trina parnadi bhishirnaihi kritanobhyarchad vibhum. And in the second month, he was eating once in 6 days. He will fast for 6 days and then eat. Now he was not eating the bear fruit. Probably it was not available anymore. Because bear is not available throughout the year. So Vrindavan is not famous for fruits. Even Goswamis have described that this place is very special. They say that water here is salty. All over Braj you go, so only few places that you can get good drinking water. And you know that even we don't have a drinking water here, we have to buy from outside. And he says, the trees here are all thorny trees, like the kikar trees and bushes. There are no, you don't see like mango trees here. There are many places in India where there are forests full of mangoes, but not in this area. So there is one of the fruit which grows here. It also has a lot of thorns. People are also like that here. So they have also spoken about this situation. So after 6 days he was eating dry leaves and grass. Trina means grass and Parna means the leaves. And these leaves were also not the green leaves, but he was eating dry leaves which fell from the tree because he did not want to commit any violence to the trees of Braj. Fruit is alright, fruit is going to fall down anyway, but leaf may not fall for a long time. So whatever leaves have fallen down, he will just pick up from that, some of that, and chew them dry. That's all. So this is for the second month. That's how he survived the second month. Then third month. Tritiyam chanayan masam name hani abhaksham uttam slokam ubdhavat samadhina. And in the third month, he was drinking only water. And that also after 9 days. So he will just drink water every 9 days and past 1 month like this. So like he must have drank water 3 times in the whole month. That's how he survived.
They say that the human body cannot stay without water more than 3 days.
You will see now, he will stay much more. So, this 2.5 liter water every day.
He's gone.
Such done that everybody should drink at least 2.5 liter of water every day. Otherwise you get problem. So he was drinking half a liter in 9 days. And he was meditating on the Lord by Samadhi. Then Chaturtham api vaimasam dwadashe hani vayu bhakshojita swaso dhyayan devam adhayat. Then on the 4th month, he was drinking only air, and that also only 12th day. Means he was breathing once in 12 days. So people say that you cannot live without water, he was living without air. So 1 breath in 12 days, so like 2.5 breaths in 1 month. And so therefore he controlled his life air and he was meditating on the Lord. So this is how yogic process works. That yogis, they can, because actually body needs energy. We only know one way, that you drink or eat something. But you can also derive energy directly. There are also people now doing Surya Yoga. So they get their energy only from the sunlight. They don't eat anything. They live. So he was just drinking air. Then 5th month is even more amazing. It says Panchame Masya Nuprapte Jitaswaso Nirpatmajaha Dhyayan Brahma Padekena Tasthaustanu Rivachala. So when it came the 5th month, then he stopped breathing. No breathing, no eating, no drinking. So now you can imagine how this person's mind will be. Because if you control your breathing, then your mind is totally fixed. Just like we have our hands, and if you put your hand somewhere on the arm of the chair, then hand is not going to move by itself suddenly somewhere. Right? When you are sitting in the chair, then your legs don't start moving without you actually thinking that you want to move. They don't move by themselves. So mind also becomes like this. Just our hands and legs, they don't function if you don't want them to function. They are under our control. In Sanskrit, there is a word for servant which is called naukar. Right? Naukar means servant. So kara means hand. So naukara means that I am like your hand. Just as your hands are in your control, they are not moving here and there when you are sitting and talking. They are in one place. So I am like that. Wherever you want me to move, I will move. That's what servant means. So control of mind means when mind becomes like that. And now mind is just like your external working senses. That you put it somewhere, it will not move from there. So if you fix the mind on the Lord, then it is not now thinking when is the next meal time. It remains there only. So then everything becomes controlled. Samadhi, and body is not needing food, water, nothing. So then he was meditating on the Lord, and he was also standing on one leg now. Previously he was standing on two legs, now he stood only on one leg. Want to occupy minimum space, reducing the requirement of the body. सर्वतो मन आकृष्य हृदि भूतेन्द्रियाशयं ध्यायन् भगवतो रूपं नाद्राक्षीत कंचनापरम. So his mind was pulled out from everything and it was completely fixed on the Supreme Lord. And he did not think of anything else. Bhutanam praninam indriyeshu nasete visai bhavati tatha bhutam bhagavad rupam. So bhuta indriya ashayam bhagavata rupam. So he said that the form of the Lord, which is not in the body, mind and senses of normal people, which cannot be seen by them. Or he gives another meaning, yadva asamyik svete natu jagarti tesam agamya. Who is sleeping, not awake to the mind and senses of normal people. That is called Bhutendriya Ashram. So he was meditating on this form of the Lord and not thinking of anything else. Adharam mahadadinam pradhana purusheshwaram brahmadhare manasya trayo lokascha kampire. And then he meditated on the Supreme Lord, who is the substratum of the elements beginning from Mahat. Because Prakriti is not independent. Prakriti is also situated in the Lord, and so are all the other elements which come from Prakriti. beginning from math. So the Lord who is Pradhana Purusheshwaram, the Lord of Prakriti and living beings. So now he fixed his mind on the Lord, thinking that he is the support. And when he did that, then all three planetary systems, they started shaking. Because he became like identified with it. यदैकपादेन सपार्थिवार्भकस्तस्थौ तदुङ्गुष्ठनिपीडितामहि ननाम तत्रार्धम् इभेन्द्रधिष्ठिता तरीवे सर्वे तरतः पदे पदे. So now what happened, that because he was meditating on the Lord and he was standing on one foot, so the earth, it bent onto that side because of his weight. And just like if there is an elephant in a boat and it goes to one side of the boat, then the boat will tilt to that side. So the whole earth got tilted because of the weight of Dhruva. Because now it is not just his weight, but it was the weight of the whole universe in him, because he was meditating on the form of the Lord. And therefore the earth was shaking by his power.
Meditating on the universal form.
He was meditating on the Lord who is the support of all the universe. So tada tasya anushthena nipidita mahi ardham ardhapratesham vyapinanam. So being pressed by his toe, the earth, it tilted. Kala bhava ityadina karmatvam ibhendrena adhisthita tari naur yatha pade pade savyato dakshinataśya namti tadvat. Just like if there is an elephant in a boat, and if he puts his weight on one side, and the boat will bend to that side. If he puts his weight on another leg, then it will bend. Or if he is walking inside a boat, and it will tilt whenever he lifts his leg. So that's what happened at that time. तस्मिन् अभिध्यायति विश्वम् आत्मनो द्वारं निरुध्य सुमनन्यया धिया लोकान् उच्छ्वास निपीडिता विषं स लोकपाला शरणं ययुर्हरिम्. And now he was meditating on the Lord as the controller or the supreme support. So then what happened, that everybody's breath was choked. People were unable to breathe because he was not breathing. And he is meditating on the Lord as the source of this universe. So tasmin abhidhyayati vishwamatmana dvaram nirudhya asum ananyadhiya. So he meditated as one with this, and then everybody's breath got stagnant. So it became a problem for people. So when the Devas and the Lokpalas, they were not able to breathe, then they all went to Lord Hari. And what is this? तस्मिन् ध्रुवे आत्मनो देहस्य विश्वं सर्वमेव द्वारम् असुं प्राणं च निविद्य. So when Dhruva was meditating on the Lord, considering that this whole universe is his body, and he was controlling his life here and meditating on him, then all the people were unable to breathe. इति विष्टैर ध्रुव संज्ञक शरीरस्य प्राणेषु निरोधनीयेषु बालत्वात् समष्टिरेव प्राणान् निरुन्ध. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti says that because he was a boy, he did not understand that if you do this, then others will also be choked, they will be suffocated. अतएव अनन्याधिया इति व्यष्टि समष्टि और ऐक्य बुद्धि रेव तत्व कारण. So he says that the reason here was that he was identifying with this form of the Lord, considering himself as one in the meditation. And because of this it happened like this. So then the day was, they went to meet the Lord and they prayed to the Lord in the following manner. Deva uchuhu Nevam vidam bhagavan pranarodham characharasya kil sattvadhamnah videhi tanno vrijinadi moksham praptavayam tvam sharanam. The gods, they prayed to Lord Hari that, O Lord, we do not know why this suffocation is happening, and this is happening to all the people. Characharasya kil sattvadhamna. Those, everybody who has life here is unable to breathe. Videhi tanno vrijnad vimoksham. Please somehow release us from this difficult situation. We are taking shelter of you, who are the suitable object to take shelter of. So this is how they prayed to the Lord. Evam pran nirodham kadapi na vidma. So it says that we have never experienced anything like this before. This is something very new, extraordinary. Akhil dhamna sarva prani sarirasya. And everyone is suffering because of this. Sri Bhagavan Uvachas, the Lord, he spoke. Ma bhayashta balam tapso duratyan nivartisya pratiyata swadhama yato hiva prana nirodha asid aptana padirmai sangatatma. So Lord said that do not fear. This is because of the very intense or rather terrible austerities performed by this boy, son of Tampad. You go to your own abode and I will stop him from this austerity and you will be released from this suffocation. This is happening because he is meditating on me with the feeling of oneness. So, commentary is Balam, Balatvad, Eva, Swapranisu, Niruddhyamanesu, Yasmakamapi Pranan, Nirundi. So, he says that the word Balam or the boy is used here to indicate that because he is a boy, therefore, by stopping his life here, he has stopped your life here. Not understanding this. Ato asman hanishyati iti buddhya tasman na bhetavim. Therefore, don't fear. He does not have any bad intention that he wants to kill you or suffocate you to death. That is not his intention. Yato dhruvat samai sangata chittaha kamapi naiv vighamsati ityartha. He says this is happening because of Dhruva and he has fixed mind on me. Therefore, there is certainly no possibility that he has any intention that he wants you to be killed or anything like this. So he says that I will very soon stop him from doing this austerity. So this is the end of chapter number 8. Then chapter number 9. अथ नवमो अध्याय मैत्रेय उवाच एवं उत्सन्नभयावृक्रमे कृताव नाम प्रयुत्रिविष्टकम् सहस्रशीर्षापि ततो गरुत्मता मधोर्वनं धृत्य दिदृक्षया गतः. So when the devas, they were made fearless in this manner, then they paid obeisances to the Supreme Lord and they went back to heaven. And after that, Lord, who is called here as Sahasrashirsha or having 1,000 heads, then he went to Madhuvan riding on the Garuda to see his servant. So now the Lord, he arrives personally there. Haristutir Varaprapti Swanutapo Grihagamaha Bandhuvir Melanam Rajyam Dhruvasya Me Bhavat. In this 9th chapter, there is description of Dhruva's prayers to the Lord and attainment of boon from the Lord, and also his own lamentation, because after seeing the Lord he laments that what is this, that I am worshipping the Lord just for this stupid position. What is the value of this? And he returns to his house, meets his relatives, and he is installed on the post of the king. So this will be described in the 9th chapter. Garbhodashaina bhedat sahasrashirsha tadanintano avatara. So why is he called Sahasrashirsha? So he says because he is one with Garbhodaksha Vishnu, he is actually Sahasrashirsha. So this is the avatara at that time, whose name is Krishnagarbha. Krishnagarbha Bhagavatam Gantavya. So this Lord who came to visit him, he is the avatara at that time who was manifest. His name is Krishnagarbha, described in Bhagavatam of Sri Rupa Goswami. So what did he do when he came there? Says Savai Dhiya Yoga Vipaka Tivraya Padma Kose Spuritam Tarit Prabham Tirohitam Sahasaiva Palakshabahi Stitam Tadavastam Dadarsha. So at that time Dhruva Maharaj, he was meditating on the Lord completely in his heart. Therefore his eyes were closed. So how to make him open his eyes? One was he could have tapped on his head. But he will not do that, because that will not work, because he is completely in samadhi. So if he would have just tapped on the head, Dhruva will not open his eyes. So what he did, that suddenly like a lightning he appeared in his heart, and after appearing he disappeared. So when he disappeared, then he got a shock and he opened his eyes, and when he opened his eyes he saw the Lord standing outside, sitting on the Garuda. So this is how he made him break his samadhi. That he gave him like a short darshan and out. Such a gatva yoga nimilitakshasya dhruvasya antakaranam pravishya darshanam dattva tatraiva punar antardhaya bahistadagre tasthavityaha savaiti. So Lord, he came there, and Dhruva was there with his closed eyes. So Lord entered inside his heart and gave him his full darshan, and then suddenly disappeared from there. And then he was standing outside. Dhyan yogasya paripakena tivra dhiya hridhi sahaseva spuritam. So because he was so intensely meditating on the Lord, then as an outcome of or perfection of this meditation, then Lord, he appeared in his heart. Spuritam tadit pradham. It was just like a lightning. Yatha syat tatha tirohitam cha. So why the example of lightning is given here? So just like lightning appears and then disappears immediately. So like that he appeared and then suddenly disappeared. So he was disturbed. Tirohitam cha upalakshya sva samipam eva drishtva labdha nashta dhana eva vyakulu. So then he, as the Lord disappeared, then he was very much disturbed as if he has lost his wealth. And that's what broke his samadhi. Bhagna samadhir udghatita netras tadavastam sthitam tam bhavidadars. So then his samadhi broke and he opened his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, then he was completely in awe because the Lord was standing there. So now he will describe how Dhruva reacted when he saw the Lord standing in front of the waves. So we'll read that tomorrow.
I have a question about this distress that he was feeling. He became a disturbance in the mind.
Tanpad?
No, Dhruva, when he lost the sight of the Lord inside,
Yeah.
then he felt like,
Felt that he has lost his wealth.
yeah, so means that he was distressed.
Yeah.
He was not feeling, he was not feeling anything. No, he was not feeling the body. He was not feeling the thirst. He was able not to breathe and to sustain the body. Basically, he has cut all the contact with the body, the gross body. And the mind.
Because when mind becomes absorbed in anything, then you are not aware of your body. And otherwise, also, if you become absorbed in something, then you forget. Even if many times children, they are absorbed in play, they forget. They may be hungry, but they don't feel the hunger at that time because they are not paying attention. So this is because of the absorption.
So then he was so absorbed inside, he forgot everything, and then suddenly the Lord appears and disappears, and he just, basically speaking, he lost his control of his mind or something.
Yeah. That's why Lord entered. He wanted to disturb his mind.
Yeah, so keep the disturbance in the mind. So then
Otherwise, he will not open his eyes. His mind remains fixed. Why should he open his eyes? He
he came
wanted to
back to the
disturb.
body then.
That's the way to bring him out of his inner consciousness.
And another thing that I could not, is not clear to me, about this becoming so heavy
Because of meditation.
because of meditation. His absorption was in the form of the Lord.
Yeah, because whatever you fix your mind on, then you can acquire the quality of it. That's how yogis, they can become small or big. They meditate like that. To think small, and they become small, big, heavy, they become heavy.
They acquire the quality. And also they have to be absorbed only in that.
Yeah. Because now you understand why yoga is based on Sankhya, because Sankhya says that everything is coming from the mind, from math. Ahankara, which is also a type of mind. And then all the material elements come from that. So if you can control the mind and think of heaviness, then heaviness becomes manifest. It's the quality of matter, or smallness, or lightness. It's the meaning of Yoga Siddhi.
Also that in the mind, when his awareness is all absorbed in the mind is absorbed on a particular object, then all the needs of the body, like even breathing, they are not, and you can keep your life here in the body without...
You see, whatever you do through your mind. Try to study yourself. Even if you are talking, your mind has to be there. If you listen, your mind has to be there. If you eat, your mind has to be there. But mind can be only at one thing at a time. When you fix your mind on one thing, then you are not aware of the other thing. So if you can fix your mind, now you don't have the ability to fix our mind on one thing for a very long period. Because mind is naturally wavering. Its characteristic of the mind is to waver, flicker from one to another. But if you can fix it on one thing, then you are not aware of other things, and then those things does not bother whether it is hunger or thirst or anything.
When there's quite a long discussion about in stopping breathing and then meditating on oneness, and then that's stopping everyone else from breathing. Is that like a literal thing, or does that have like a meaning behind it? Is there something that we should have knowledge of there that, I didn't really I'm not sure that I really got the point of that.
No, it is literal. The meaning is that if you meditate, there are two ways of meditating. One is that you meditate and know yourself that I am the meditator and this is the object of meditation. And one is to remove that distinction between meditator and the object meditated upon. When you remove that distinction, then you and the object of meditation are one. And they acquire the same characteristic. This is what is being indicated here. Not that these two things become one, but they become like interlinked. And then whatever is happening to one happens to the other. That is the significance.
Okay.
So it's like, even otherwise, people, if they are two people and they have love for each other and one is meditating on the other, then your feelings can be transported to the other person. They can feel your mind or your thoughts or your emotions, or you can feel the emotions. So why it happens? Because you identify with that person, you link yourself with that person. And if you can actually identify so much by meditation, then whatever happened to that person will happen to you also. So there have been instances that somebody is being hit and the reaction is seen on the body of another person. So how is this possible? That somebody is hitting you and the reaction of that hitting is seen on the body of another person who is meditating on you or who is loving you. So this cannot be explained by modern scientific principle.
Yeah, the same thing with the thing with Jesus, when people suffer those injuries.
Stigma.
So
this is because of meditation.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Well then, I suppose that leads on to my next question is, because like I mentioned yesterday, I have a lot of Buddhist background with my knowledge of meditation and things like this. How then, or where, because it might be too big a question to just ask, how do you meditate on the Lord? Because if the Lord is formless and these different things, but I know that there's mention of meditating on a form of the Lord. Is it you sort of step it up in increments, as the boy did with his austerities? You know, you work towards a point where it's more and more infinite. You know, he spoke about the universal Lord.
No, he was meditating on the form to begin with. I think you missed the earlier class. Narada gave him instructions how to meditate. So there are two types of meditation, two types of samadhi. One is called sampragyat samadhi, the other is called asampragyat samadhi. So asampragyat samadhi, the goal is to make the mind thoughtless. You don't meditate on anything specific. You have to make your mind empty of all thoughts. So that is one path. But path of those people who believe, because there are two types of transcendentalists, those who believe that God is formless, if at all they believe in God. There are also meditators who don't believe in God. And then there are others who consider that God has a transcendental form, spiritual form. So these people who believe that God has a transcendental form, they are not interested in asampragyat samadhi or making the mind thoughtless. But they fix their mind on the form of the Lord and they meditate on that to begin with. And the perfection is that when that form becomes actually visible inside in meditation, as it happened to Dhruva, and when that happens, then you can also see the same form outside. Because there is no difference between the two. So this is the process which is being described here. Because Bhagavatam is propagating this idea that ultimate reality is having a transcendental form. And this formless is one feature of that form. It's not denying the formless reality, but that formless reality is not independent of the form. It's only one feature. Just like you have sun. So sun has a form, but the sunlight which is spread in the universe is formless. So sunlight is not without the sun. So there are people who may know only sunlight and not the sun. So that means knowing the formless as reality, or pervading formless, qualityless reality. And not knowing that actually it also has a source and form. So Bhagavatam speaks of a God who is having a transcendental form, and he has one aspect or one feature which is called Brahman, which is formless.
Whatever may be the reason of the motivation of person to meditate on the Lord, the attainment will be the same. Because Dhruva, he wanted position.
No, attainment is different, it is not same, because Dhruva he attained the Lord, but he got the position.
And the Lord went.
And then he went. That's why later on he will lament. Because you see, you have the Lord and you can have the Lord himself, but instead you are asking one very small position. You can imagine that Lord who creates millions of universes. So even if you get one universe from him, so what is the big deal? So when you realize that this is the person I am begging from him, so therefore he says that I am asking for a piece of glass instead of a transcendental gem. So he said, I've been actually cheated. So you attain your result according to your resolve, your sankalpa. So your sankalpa should be right. Of course, he gave him also ultimate position of being a devotee. That is Lord's grace. But he could have gotten even more than that. So that's why proper knowledge and proper resolve is important.
He was meditating and basically thinking that he's not different from the object of his meditation. So then all this thing
Actually, it
happened.
is not that you have to even think like that consciously. If you are not clear right from the beginning that this is what I want, then it will happen. When meditation occurs, then ultimate stage of samadhi, then this distinction will go away. Because you are not aware of yourself anymore. It is a very intense state of meditation when you become, and you try to imagine when you fix your mind on this object so much day and night, like he was not eating, not breathing, there is nothing which is moving his mind. So only this object is there, so the mind gets filled up with this object. So what happens that you make a chitta vritti. I will explain this to you. So you have only one chitta vritti, one mental frame, which is of this particular object, which is the form of the Lord here. And you are just seeing that day and night, 24 hours. So you in the beginning you are aware that I am meditating because you make an effort to meditate. But when your mind becomes fixed, you are not even making an effort. Like you start driving, in the beginning you are very much aware how you have to be changing the gear and this is the brake and this, but once you become expert, you talk and you listen something else and you drive. You don't become aware of that. So meditation becomes like that. And you are not even aware that you are meditating and this is meditation and this is the object of meditation. You just, mind is fixed, it is not moving. But if our resolve from the beginning is that I am a devotee and I am a servant of the Lord, then you will also remain aware of that. And this will not happen.
Because he made also this type, by creating all this disturbance by his meditation, this shows that he was not really.
That's why he said in the commentary that because he is a Bala, he is not knowing this.
He doesn't know.
So such type of absorption, it is necessary for every Vaishnava to come on such a level in the later stages. And is this really required to get the mercy of the Lord that you have such a high advanced stage of mind to be totally absorbed?
Not necessary. This is one process, the process of meditation. But if you are just doing service, I think there is no physical service being done.
But a service also requires then deep absorption.
Yeah, but in that service you cannot be just meditating on the Lord, you have to also see if suppose you are cooking. You have to be aware that there is fire, there are objects, how much salt you have to put, whether you have put salt or not. And you put it 2 times because the Lord has to eat. So you have to be aware of all these things. So that is different. So we will come to all that level of Bhakti. This is first to explain because people usually think like this. In these terms they understand.
This Narada Muni that we hear about in Srimad Bhagavatam seems quite different from the Narada that we heard about in Mahabharata.
Yes.
So what is behind it?
All the characters of Bhagavatam and all the characters of Mahabharata, although they have the same names, even the Yudhishthira of Mahabharata and Yudhishthira of Bhagavatam is different. Arjuna of Bhagavad Gita and Arjuna of Mahabharata and Bhagavatam is different. So they are same people. But you see, these books are written, and I have said it many times, that they are not telling us history,
They're not telling?
us historical facts. But they are using history to tell us philosophy, or dharma, or bhakti yoga, or jnana yoga, spam yoga. So these are not mythological figures. It's not that Narada does not exist or did not exist, or the Pandavas or Krishna that did not exist. They existed and these things happened. But how they have to be explained, which part has to be explained, that is up to the author, that what he wants to show in the book. So which part he will highlight and which he will not show, that he will explain. So Narada also has had many lives. He also explained that in my past life I was like this. He was also Gandharva before. It will come in the 7th canto. He will explain Barhan, Gandharva. So, although he is the same person, but he has lived many lives. So when we hear Narada in Bhagavatam, then he is the topmost devotee of the Lord. He is an avatara listed right in the 3rd chapter. And who is for pure devotion. And when we read Narada, as we read in Mahabharata, that story, then he is different Narada, where it is being depicted that how people who are performing spiritual life, they also have these types of problems. They have not perfected yet. And just so that those people who want to follow spiritual life, they understand these things and become aware of them. So that's why the stories are told, that how these two sages were there and they made this agreement that we should reveal everything. So what is the idea behind it? That a saintly person should not hide anything. And if you hide anything, then this is the problem which will come. Because then when you hide your weakness, then it will only grow. So better you know it yourself and let your teacher or your friend, here in this case, you tell so that he can help you. But if you try to cover it, then whatever you cover, that grows. That is the nature of the mind. If you would have said it the very first time when he got this thought, he would have told this to Parvata Muni, then maybe he would have discussed and tried to sort it out and it would not have grown. But because he tried to hide it, then it kept on growing and growing and growing and came to the level that finally he has to marry her. So this curse that he has to marry is not a curse, it has to happen. And it's already grown to that level. So when we have some anartha in the heart, if we keep hiding it, means we are trying to repress it. So whatever you repress, that you are watering it now, you are making it strong, and one day it will become so strong that you will not be able to repress it. It has to then come up very like a demon. So that is the meaning behind the story. So these figures are used to show us the human mind.
There's several discrepancies in that story.
Yeah. Yes. First of all, why they have to go and live with the king?
Why would they accept service from a princess?
How would that is why they accept it.
Yeah. Or why do they go wandering for rice and ghee? Nardas doesn't care about rice and ghee, right? And he's Trikalanya.
So this is what shows that when you are not following the path of bhakti, if you are a devotee, this will not happen. Because first of all, if you are a devotee, you will not wander for ghee and rice, right? You offer your food and you accept that. So that shows that how without bhakti there is no perfection. This is the meaning, ultimate meaning of these stories. That on the path of bhakti, this problem will not come. Even Dhruv Maharaj did not have any problem. He is just a little boy. But nothing bothered him. So on the path of bhakti they will show problem, it will come only because of the offense. This is to be noticed. So Narada already told his story in the 6th chapter, that how he served the sages and then how he attained perfection. He was also a little boy at that time. So this shows that how bhakti is so powerful, that even these small little guys, they became so great. And on the other side we see all these great sages who had the power to curse and all that, and they are falling down. So there it is shown that they are not following bhakti, although he is a devotee and all that, but this is the way it is shown to explain this point. That without bhakti there is no perfection, and there is always a pitfall on that path. Because you have an independent mind. Until the time you have this independent mind and you have this separatist mentality, which in Bhagavatam all the time they are repeating it, then there is big possibility of deviation. So bhakti, therefore it is said that bhakti begins with liberation. You become liberated right from the beginning. Because the very first step in bhakti is to surrender your ego to the Lord. So once that ego is surrendered, which is the root cause of all the problems, means now you are no more independent. So that independent idea that let me go and eat rice and butter, maybe in those days rasgullas and rabdi was not available. And we don't talk about that. So this idea will not come. And even if it will come that let me offer this to God. At least that consciousness will remain. And that will still keep you on the track. So that is the meaning behind this. So that's why it is said in 11th Canto, Dhavanimilya Vanetre Naskledna Patedihe. That on this path you can run with your closed eyes, you will neither fall nor slip. But you first be on this path.